The best lawyers aren't found in the big law firms. They're found in the stories of those who left. The final chapter, a Firelight conversation. A few weeks later, we finally took that camping trip with Hannah and Ryan. The fire crackled in the still night air, throwing flickering shadows against the trees. The scent of burning wood mixed with the crisp mountain breeze, and in the distance, the faint rustling of leaves hinted at some nocturnal creature moving through the bush. The kids were in their tents, the boys in one sharing scary stories, and the girls in another sound asleep. I leaned back in my camp chair, stretching my legs out toward the fire, a gin and tonic sweating in my hand. Across from me, Courtney sat with her own drink, the glow of the flames catching in her eyes. To her right, Hannah, a fellow lawyer who we had learned earlier that day was quite miserable in her job at another large firm in the city. She sat with her knees tucked up against her chest, staring into the fire. Hannah had been quiet since dinner, occasionally glancing at her husband Ryan, who sat beside me, absent-mindedly poking at the fire with a stick. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. "So, how did you do it?" He turned to me, his expression half curious, half frustrated. "Because Hannah's been talking about leaving for a while, but she reckons she isn't ready." Hannah shot him a look. "It's not that simple," she said. I shared a quick glance at Courtney, a slow, knowing pull at the corner of my mouth. "Actually, it kind of is," I said. Hannah let out a sharp breath through her nose. "Easy for you to say, you've already done it." Courtney leaned forward, her face glinting with a quiet challenge. "Exactly. That's why we're telling you it's possible." Ryan leaned in, as if wanting to take Courtney up on the challenge. "All right then, let's hear it. If you had to explain exactly how to quit a law firm and build your own successful practice step by step, how would you do it?" I took a deep breath to reflect back, taking a sip of my drink. "Well, it started with quitting." Hannah slumped back in her chair, throwing her hands up in disbelief. "That's your advice? Just quit?" Courtney chimed in. "It's the hardest part. Once you know you're leaving, you're already gone, but trust me, it took Jason a long time to get there. But once he did, well, you know the infamous quitting story already." I nodded. I spent years debating it, convinced myself I needed to get everything in order first. But the truth, I was just scared. The second I actually quit, I realized the only thing stopping me was me. Ryan glanced at his wife. "Sound familiar?" Hannah shot him another look, but there was still doubt in her eyes as I probed further. "Let me ask you something, Hannah. What are you waiting for?" She hesitated, staring at the fire. I don't know. I guess I just want to be sure I'll be okay." Courtney re-entered the conversation, knowing it would help hearing the message from someone outside the legal realm rather than a colleague. "You're a lawyer. You'll be fine. There are always plenty of other jobs you can go back to. The question isn't if you'll be okay, it's how much longer you're willing to trade your life for a job you hate." Hannah swallowed. She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. A subtle shift passed through her, as if for the first thread of a long-held belief had started to unravel. I turned to Ryan. "All right, if you want Hannah to quit, let's break it down logically. The biggest fear lawyers have is not making enough money. The morning after I quit, Courtney calculated exactly how many clients I needed to survive. The day after I told Mitchum I paused, aware of how close the kids' tents were, replacing my intended language with something more PG rated. Big, bad bully he had been. One client every week was enough to cover living expenses. 10 billable hours per week doubled my salary. I could still picture the roadmap Courtney had made. That's it? Hannah still sounded like she needed some convincing, remembering how light I had felt and realizing how little I needed to do to replace my own salary. That's it. You're billing 30 plus hours a week at the moment, so imagine what happens when you can hit a billable target on Monday and suddenly have 4 days free to actually network and line up more work. Without hesitation, Ryan jumped on the thought. You could get a lot more clients. I gave a sharp nod, pleased with his enthusiasm. Exactly. Courtney leaned over to Hannah, clasping her drink with both hands to prevent it spilling. And the best part, he works less and makes way more while always doing the school pickups and bedtime routines. Hannah seemed to be growing in confidence. I guess I've never actually sat down and calculated it. Courtney offered the words like a proven truth, not a suggestion to consider. You should. It'll change everything. Ryan was eager to keep progressing the conversation. All right, but where did the first clients come from? I was happy to keep reminiscing on those first few weeks. This is where I began to overcomplicate everything, thinking I needed ads, websites, branding, marketing, and everything to be perfect before I launched. I could still picture that first night of sheer panic as I continued. Instead of that, I made a list of 1,000 people I already knew, clients, colleagues, business owners, and old uni mates. Courtney decided now was a great time to remind me of how much of a deer in headlights I had been. And what was your genius first strategy for reaching out? I groaned, remembering how clueless I'd been. I was going to try alphabetical outreach. Ryan made a sound halfway between disbelief and amusement. You what? Courtney couldn't help herself. Yep, he was going to start with A and just work his way down because he didn't know where else to begin. I jumped in before the friendly ribbing got worse. Fortunately, Courtney suggested a better way, and that same day I bumped into Lara, who explained the 5 layers of leads to focus my attention more strategically. I'm happy to send you the spreadsheet I made. Courtney pounced on the moment, her voice dancing with mischief. He might love his spreadsheets as much as he loves me and the kids. I paused for dramatic effect as if considering it. It's a close 4th place for my spreadsheets, earning a round of laughs. As we continued making inappropriate jokes about my love affair with spreadsheets, Hannah cut it short. So what's in the spreadsheet? Ryan teased, someone's eager to quit their job. Hannah shot back, shut up you. Then turning back to me as if demanding an answer, shooting me a look across the fire, Courtney prompted me. Come on, babe, tell her. I bent down and began drawing a small circle in the dirt beside my chair. It's 4 columns or levels to divide them up. Inner circle are the closest contacts who would likely support you immediately. I drew a larger circle around that one. Warm leads are clients you've helped recently or have strong rapport. Drawing another circle around that, referral sources are colleagues or professionals in complementary industries. I stood up to draw the final circle all the way around everyone to show the size. And cold prospects are people or companies who might benefit from my services, but I haven't had any direct contact with yet. The last one and the second one have the most potential but take the longest to convert. So you've got to build up trust with them until they move inward so your inner circle is enough to sustain your business. Courtney felt it was a nice time to join the conversation. And then how long did it take you to actually start reaching out to people? A quiet breath escaped me, the memory feeling like it belonged to someone else. I was so terrified of sounding desperate. I didn't want to feel like I was selling. Hannah's whole body seemed to lean into the moment as if relief flooded through her to hear someone else say it out loud and confirm what she felt. That's exactly how I feel. Courtney pointed at me. And what was the fix? I tossed a piece of wood onto the fire, the sparks popping into the night, adding drama to the big reveal. Stop selling and start helping. I turned to Hannah. If you truly believe people need your legal help, you won't hesitate to offer it. Courtney helped me realize it's a responsibility because if we don't step up, people self-represent or worse, end up lining the pockets of firms like Mitchum's or your boss. It's not selling, it's showing up to help the people who need it. They can always say no, but when you think of it as a responsibility and that to stay silent is worse, you quickly overcome that fear. A profound silence fell, yet it wasn't awkward. Instead, it felt like a moment of understanding, as if something had just clicked into place for everyone. I stood up. Who needs a refill? I said. Courtney handed me her glass. Thanks, babe. Ryan was already up, heading to their esky already. I'll grab ours. Doing a quick check-in on the tents, I could hear the steady breathing from the girls' tent, all clearly conked out after a day of swimming in the creek, hiking up to check out the view from a nearby hill, and the thrill of being back together after nearly 2 years apart. The boys' tent was still well and truly alive, as I could see the headlamps shaking up and down, and I could hear Ollie's voice doing his best to scare his 2 older friends with the scariest story he knew, the slaying of a dragon. I listened along for a few minutes, reminiscing on that glorious day, before heading back to the esky, filling our drinks, grabbing the bag of marshmallows and handing Courtney her gin, before settling back into my seat with a relaxed sigh as I looked up at the stars. Hannah leaned forward, poking at the fire with a stick, and then with an impatient tone, nudged things back on track. All right, so what's next? I don't think you've actually got a client yet, so there must be more to these steps. As I opened the marshmallows and pointed my skewer toward Courtney, indicating where the next steps came from. That's true. And there were still a few more things I needed to do before that happened, but fortunately for me, I've got a marketing genius in the house who showed me how to make it easy for people to stalk me and know what I actually do. Ryan choked on his drink, the unexpected word catching him completely off guard. Wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, his voice still raspy, he managed to stammer, "Stalk you? Sounds like you've been watching a little bit too much You on Netflix." Settling back into my chair to deliver the punchline, I want my clients to be like Joe Goldstein. Then I looked at Courtney, who was laughing hysterically. After the chuckles subsided, she lifted her drink as she bowed her head to say I was doing a great job with her lessons, so I continued on. But seriously, what's the first thing you do before you book a service or restaurant? Ryan pointed his beer bottle at me as the punchline clicked. Look them up online. I get it. A place to stalk you. Then, realizing he'd only cracked the joke, not the idea. Okay, but how did you actually do that? I took a deep breath for dramatic effect. I stopped treating my LinkedIn like a resume and started treating it like a business card. I'll leave the details to Court, as she did it all for me. Then, gesturing with my drink toward Courtney, who placed her drink down, she rattled them off, one finger showing each step. A clear headline about who you help and how, an about section that spoke to clients, not partners or recruiters, simple call to action like book a free consultation. Once he made it clear how he could actually help people. Pausing before delivering the end of the story, clients started coming to him. Hannah raised both eyebrows with a hopeful look. And now? The words left me casually, like I hadn't even broken a sweat since then. Honestly, after the first few clients, I don't think I've had to chase work. Courtney spoke up like a coach calling out a missing play. Once you made your offer so good, people would feel silly saying no, and had your reputare score where it needed to be and getting tracked properly. My excitement bubbled over as I remember, oh yeah, the entire foundation, the reputare score. It's in another spreadsheet I can send you. We all broke in laughter, the flames flickering in sync with the mood. Ryan leaned over toward me and in a serious tone, pretending to whisper, but loud enough for our wives to hear, you really like your spreadsheets, eh, bud? Refusing to let their gentle ribbing dampen my enthusiasm, I braved onwards. This one is awesome. Pfizer would patent this spreadsheet to sell it as an anti-anxiety drug for lawyers if they could. Courtney leaned in slightly, her tone part confession, part comfort, to let me know she still loved me despite my obsession with data. Admittedly, after he started using this one, I noticed he didn't seem to be as frantic. Stretching my legs out, I tossed the next line her way like a quizmaster about to raise the stakes. All right, Hannah, let's start with a simple question. What do you think is the most important metric when becoming self-employed? Hannah tapped her fingers lightly against her knees, eyes narrowing as she weighed the question. Revenue? Ryan tilted his beer toward me, guessing confidently. Profit margin. Courtney took a sip of her drink before quietly saying, I know this one. I shot her a mock glare across the fire. Of course you do. Gesturing as if I was going to throw a marshmallow at her, Courtney opened her mouth, inviting the challenge. I tossed it up high and over the fire, expecting a complete miss, but to my astonishment, Courtney caught it perfectly in her mouth and sat back nonchalantly chewing before she swallowed. Speaking of word of mouth, that's a clever way to introduce it, actually. I gave a small mock salute with my marshmallow stick. Touché. And turned back to Hannah and Ryan. It's not revenue, it's not profit margin. It's your ability to get repeat business, your reputare score. Hannah tilted her chin slightly, like she was trying to figure out if I was making it up. Never heard of it. Is it Latin? I leaned forward toward the fire with my drink clasped in both hands. It is actually. It's where the word reputation comes from. It means to consider, to judge. It's kind of like your brand score, but marketing gurus have destroyed that word. Think about this. If you open a law firm today, what's the most expensive way to get clients? Ryan sat up, throwing his answer into the firelight like a trivia night pro. Advertising. Releasing one hand to snap my fingers and point at him. Exactly. You pay for ads, you build a website, you waste time on marketing materials, and maybe, just maybe, you get a few leads. But here's the thing. The easiest, cheapest, and most powerful way to get clients is for your past clients to come back or send more work to you. Hannah sank back into her seat, pointing at Courtney as a realization hit. Reputare score. I was pleased the dots were finally connecting. Bingo. Every single time you deliver a service, you can either increase or decrease your reputare score. If you're just okay, they'll forget you. If you're terrible, they'll publicly complain and scare people away. But if you blow their expectations out of the water, they become your sales team. They return or introduce new clients without you having to spend another dollar. Ryan exhaled as if the information needed to find room inside him. Makes sense. But how do you actually get people to refer to you? I mean, people are busy. They don't just go around recommending lawyers for fun. I let the question settle between us all for a moment, the way you do when you know the answer because you had to truly earn it for yourself. You make them want to. Hannah tilted her head. But how? I clasped my hands like a scoutmaster about to deliver a scary fireside tale. All right, story time. Courtney chuckled sarcastically, but affectionately as she reached for a marshmallow. Here we go. Deciding not to take the bait, I proceeded with my story. A client reached out to me for a simple lease review. She was expecting a dull legal memo, standard lawyer stuff, but instead of just giving her the advice in lawyer speak, we recorded a video breakdown, explaining everything in plain English. Ryan's eyes widened. Smart. I held up my drink toward Courtney, indicating it was her idea. Then we went one step further. Instead of nickel and diming her for every tiny revision, we threw in one free round of negotiations with the landlord. No extra charge, or built into the fixed fee anyway. Hannah's lips parted slightly, caught somewhere between confusion and curiosity. You just gave away work for free? I countered, calm but sure of the lesson. No, I invested in the relationship, which was actually a lot less time and effort than having more coffee catch-ups. Courtney leaned forward, her voice edged with anticipation as she was setting up the punchline. And what happened next? I didn't gloat, I just let the result speak for itself. The clients were so blown away, all three of them messaged me the following 24 hours after I'd finished their work. Not only did they pay without question, they immediately asked me to review another lease or send me more referrals, or left a Google review and sent me more work. Ryan let out a low whistle. Whew. So he turned one job into two. The fire crackled as their silence lingered. I let it breathe for just a moment before driving the point home. Not just two. One posted about my service on LinkedIn, and that post led to three more inquiries. Hannah's expression shifted into open disbelief, the kind that bordered on envy and admiration. All from one client, she asked. I could see them both connecting the dots as I continued. That is why my reputare score became the foundation of everything. Now, I don't chase new clients. My goal is to turn every single client into a megaphone for my practice by providing a service so good that they feel compelled to talk about me. Ryan shook his head, amazed. So instead of always hunting for new clients, you focus on making sure every client you do have turns into more. I raised my glass. Exactly. A client should never be the end of a transaction. They should be the beginning of your next 5. Hannah slumped deeper into her seat as if the truth weighed more than she expected. God, I've been thinking about this all wrong. I've been so focused on trying to figure out how to get clients. I never even thought about what happens after I get them. Courtney gave a low, knowing hum, her voice turning wry. Most lawyers don't. They act like every matter is a one-night stand when they should be building relationships. We all laughed. Ryan swiped a hand through the air like he was clearing away imaginary doubts. So what you're saying is if Hannah takes the leap, she doesn't need to worry about constantly chasing dozens of clients from day one, but just getting the first one. I nodded, especially if she delivers an experience people can't stop talking about. Courtney's words cut through. She is the mother's cat. Hannah's sitting right here, gentlemen. I held up both hands like I was surrendering. Sorry, turning my attention to Hannah. Just go above and beyond and make it a memorable experience for them, and trust me, you'll be set. Ryan took a sip of his drink. Okay, but what's the catch? Courtney didn't wait for the pause to finish. The catch is, if you're not careful, you end up working just as much as you did at the firm. I grabbed the back of my neck, the guilt of the memory, forgetting, pick up, returning. Yeah, I made that mistake, said yes to everything, missed school pickup, missed bedtime routines. I thought I had to keep the momentum going at all costs. Hannah leaned in, obviously starting to visualize how it might work for her own situation. How did you fix it? My gaze dropped to the fire, the lesson still smouldering somewhere behind my ribs. Courtney gently reminded me why I quit in the first place. I blocked out family time first and then fit work around it. There was no edge to Hannah's voice, only the hunger of someone who wanted to believe it too. Just like that. And the clients were okay with it? The stick in my hand tapped the log absently as I nodded toward Courtney. I mean, it was a gut-wrenching lesson at the time, but fortunately I have this one to remind me of the reason I decided to quit in the first place. A soft tug pulled at my mouth as I turned back to Hannah and Ryan. The clients I want to deal with actually appreciated it. No one ever complained once. I set the rules and we honestly never looked back after that missed pickup day. Ryan tapped his stick lightly against his boot, mulling it over before glancing up. And now? Courtney gave the smallest nod, like she was locking the memory away again, proud it had finally done its job. Now we get to prioritise how we spend the next 24 hours every single day to have more weekends like this. We all sat back in our chairs collectively for a moment, appreciating how nice it was to be together sharing the time. Then almost as if on cue, we all turned our sights on Hannah at the same time. Ryan's voice lifted just enough to nudge her without pressure. So what do you think? Hannah's throat tightened, as if clearing a way for the words. I think I just need to hear that it's possible. Ryan's eyes gleamed, his voice warm with certainty. It is, and we both know you're ready to do it. She let out a slow breath. All right, a new spark in her voice, the kind that only comes when fear finally turns into action. Let's do this. I raised my glass to burning the boats. Hannah didn't hesitate, just raised her glass and sealed the decision with a toast. To learning from you two so I don't have to. We all clinked glasses. And just like that, another lawyer had chosen freedom. End of chapter and end of book. And the bonus resource in this one, only if you had the hard copy, is a very big discount to join the Self-Employed Lawyers League. So if you are interested after reading the book, if the resources have helped encourage you, inspire you, understand the book is my first book written as a fable, so it may not be the ultimate. It's no War and Peace or anything like that, but what it's designed is to simply give you some tools, give you the gut check, give you the confidence that there's plenty of other lawyers who have gone through this before you, and all of them are inside the Self-Employed Lawyers League. And Courtney and myself are here to help you get started, but more importantly, once you've gotten started, once you've made that leap, to give you a supportive community to make sure your first year is as smooth sailing as possible. So seriously consider getting yourself a copy of the book, because inside the book is quite cheap. It's the lowest price we can have on Amazon. And inside it, at the very end of the book, is a $1,000 discount voucher that you can use to join the Self-Employed Lawyers League. Once you have got your practicing certificate, you've become a sole practitioner, or you've started a firm yourself, the Self-Employed Lawyers League will be here, ready and waiting to support you to make that leap into more freedom. So thank you very much for listening. The future episodes of this podcast will be guests who are Self-Employed Lawyers League members, people who made that leap. So stay tuned for those episodes. Please follow, subscribe, whatever the words are, to this podcast. And I hope to get you on an interview one day to be joining the Self-Employed Lawyers League. Thanks for listening.